Hi, I'm John Sarakis with the Digital Mastermind. You're listening to The Climb. This is where agency owners and leaders tune in to get growth tips and strategies for growing their businesses. Thank you for joining us in episode 7 of The Climb. This week, we're talking about acquiring, operations. We have two amazing people that are going to be joining us that I've known for a little bit now. But before we go into that, kind of want to set this up with my partner in climb here, David McGraw. And David, today we're going to be talking about growth, acquiring agencies, even what it looks like to work with your spouse, operations, and how all those things come together. And before that, though, the question I want to know is, when we talk about mergers and acquisitions, what comes to mind for you?
Well, immediately what comes to mind is what we went through last year with our own merger from Oyova and Revital. So we kicked that off last year in 2019. And, that was our first experience in it. And, we're here together on a show. So it must have went pretty well.
Yeah, no, that's a great point. And I think through ours, in talking to a lot of people, I think we got lucky in a lot of respects. And granted, you and I flirted with this idea for, I want to say, like 8 years.
Right. So I would say that if anything, if we look back, we probably procrastinated way too long. And we should have probably did this 5 years ago. But
me procrastinate? Never.
Yeah.
No.
But, I'm really into this topic. I'm really interested in growth, and not every growth can be organic. Sometimes you have to acquire or be acquired to become a part of something larger. I'm constantly reading about this and wanting to hear from other people. So really excited to hear from Mike and Nikole what they have to say about this.
Yeah, and the way that they've done it, I think, is really interesting. So that's why I want to get into some of the nitty-gritty details that we'll expose in some of the questions. And they obviously know a hell of a lot about this, more than you and I do. So let's go ahead and welcome Nikole and Mike Rose. Hey, guys, thank you for joining us.
Hey, John. Hey, David. Great to be on.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
Welcome to the show.
Our pleasure. All right. So before we get into everything, I'd like to give listeners an overview of your climb, right? So, and this is a story of who you are, how you got there for the most part. And a lot of this will be pertained to majorly to your agency, and feel free to stop me if any of this is inaccurate. Dynamic duo, husband and wife team. Agency is Mojo Media Labs, which has 29 employees, according to LinkedIn, spread across Texas, Oklahoma, Indiana, Florida, and Alabama. You guys were recently voted best place to work, and you're on the Inc. 5000 as one of the fastest growing companies. Among you guys have a ton of other awards. Don't want to eat up 10 minutes of time here going over all of them. And you're located in Dallas, Texas. Is that accurate?
That sums it up.
That sums it up. We're headquartered in Dallas, Texas. We do have 2 other offices in Oklahoma, as well as Indianapolis, but you nailed it, John.
Perfect. Thank you so much. All right. So we're starting something new here. So everyone has tools to support them in their climb, right? That's the name of this podcast. And we want to start a new segment here where we want to know what's in your backpack, right? The tools that you're using. So what are the tools Mojo uses to operate? And I just have a few sections in here. So when it comes to analytics and marketing platform, what are your tools of choice?
Yeah, I'll take that. So when you originally asked the question, my first thought went to tools that we use, such as open book management, as well as the Entrepreneurial Operating System, or Traction, as well as kind of the tools we use to determine and live our core values. But definitely down on the marketing level, we're HubSpot Diamond Partners, and clearly a big fan of that marketing tech.
Perfect. Okay. And then when it comes to project management.
Go ahead, Nikole.
So we actually just moved from Teamwork to a platform called ClickUp.
Teamwork.
Yeah, the team really likes it. Definitely a much more collaborative kind of system.
Really? That's interesting. We're on Teamwork. I've been on Teamwork when they were almost nothing. So yeah, we've been one of their original partners. Now, granted, I don't want to say 5, 6, 7, 8 years, something like that.
Wow.
Huh. Interesting. So what inspired that move?
Oh boy, Mike and I are probably the wrong people to ask from like a real detail perspective, but overall, it was too rigid for what we were looking for. We needed a platform that that enhanced just better collaboration and more flexibility with how we kind of viewed things. A lot of our projects are not necessarily waterfall, not all taskless, if you will. So it's a very different kind of platform. So it just allowed for the better collaboration, flexibility, and
Okay.
way to be able to get our projects done in the way that we like to do them.
Sounds more agile.
That's very correct. It's definitely a more agile platform than Teamwork. Yep.
That's good to know. All right, I'm definitely making a note of that. And then for your CRM sales platform, I'm assuming HubSpot?
Yeah, what's interesting about HubSpot, we partnered with them back in 2011. Back then, they were a marketing automation platform, or I should say software as a service in the area of marketing automation. And today, they truly are a platform service.
Mm-hmm.
So we're really learning the difference between SaaS and platform services, which is kind of interesting, actually, to be able to now have HubSpot be almost like our mini ERP, if you will. So now we're on the marketing automation as well as the CRM, as well as the CMS, which you build the site on. So with that trifecta there, it has really changed not just the way we run our own agency, but how we set up and implement that for our clients as well. And then clearly, I think is maybe halfway around the track, not the full way around on their service side. So their service hub, or akin to a Zendesk, is quite successful as well.
Yeah, and some other tools that we use to kind of run. We're big fans of DataBox. So it's a dashboarding tool. HubSpot obviously has some dashboard functionality, but DataBox just gives us more robust opportunities to pull from different data sources. So we use that in many different ways. We're also huge fans of Drift. So that's a conversational marketing platform. We've got that installed on our own website and use that. So in addition, not to overwhelm, but we're starting to get a heavy focus in account-based marketing, and that tech stack for account-based marketing is much more vast. There's a lot more tech out there. So ABM platforms like Demandbase and Terminus. Platforms like ZoomInfo, which help to append data and be able to give you more insight on the contact level, if you will. And then even platforms that can give you more intent data and insight in terms of what people are doing on the web without having them fill out a form first.
Okay, lots of tools, fantastic, and
lots of tools.
And what I would add to that is, I mean, and Nikole said not to overwhelm, but that's the issue. I mean, people are overwhelmed. Because there's 8,500 pieces of new tech every year, or whatever the tech. Don't quote me on that, but whatever that number is, it's overwhelming. What I like, what we've been able to try to at least initially navigate, is looking at core tech versus edge tech. So the core tech would be our CMS, our CRM, our marketing automation, as well as the account-based marketing platform, such as a Terminus or a Demandbase. Then as you start there, getting all that together, integrated, communicating really well together, and then start adding edge tech to that, such as Drift and DataBox and various other tech. So it's overwhelming, but it's also a huge opportunity for agencies specifically to navigate that tech roadmap with their clients and become truly that partner who can kind of provide clarity and consulting and counseling through that tech build.
Oh, it's an interesting way to look at it. Yeah. And to the ERP question, who do you use for your accounting? Has HubSpot put their claws into that yet?
No, we're using QuickBooks Online and Bill.com, so everything virtually. But no, our billing system isn't tied at all to any of the marketing platforms that we're using.
Not yet.
Cool. I know, man. If you think of all the inroads they're making.
QuickBooks is just so, I mean, it's great, honestly. I mean, probably 99% of people use QuickBooks, small businesses particularly. But honestly, I think it's not where it's a great an accounting platform, clearly, but I don't think it does a good job, in my opinion, at helping business owners run businesses and making good financial decisions, getting better insights out of your business, particularly if you're on a retainer-based service business. And I'd love to see some improvements there. There's some great third-party add-ons, but for the most part, we have accounting, and everything else sitting in 2 different silos.
Ah, okay. Yeah. Dave's an adamant FreshBooks guy himself.
Yeah.
Simpler the better.
Not cross that line. Were you gonna say something, Dave?
Yeah, talking about project management tools, we've got, the new Top Gun movie coming out soon, and the whole story about Top Gun.
I'm so excited, David. I'm telling you, when I found that out, I was like, this is going to be the best year ever.
The reason I bring that up is because the whole premise of Top Gun is that all these automated systems have turned these fighter pilots into, button push, and they lose all their skills. They just don't have the skills. And I remember 2 years ago when we switched to teamwork, for the last 2 years prior to that, my team was trying to push us away from Basecamp. And I loved Basecamp because it did everything that we needed to do, and it was simple, and everybody was already trained on it. And when they brought these problems to me about why Basecamp wasn't good enough, what I found out is that they just weren't good project managers, and they were looking for a magic solution to just do it for them, when the reality is I needed to go back and do a little bit more training for project management. And I just wonder how many of these systems are just looked at as these magic solutions, turning people into actually lowering their skill set.
I completely agree with you. And I think that I am happy to say that I don't even have a admin access or login access at all to our project management system. So I'm speaking kind of from the outside here, but I feel like Teamwork and Basecamp and even ClickUp, I've looked inside of it. They're project collaboration systems. They're not project management systems. And to truly be project management and not just use it as a communication tool and maybe check off tasks and things like that is, I think, what the tools are creating, project collaborators, instead of, to your point, creating project managers, which is really a pure skill set that's critical. And no matter what role you're in any company, whether you're an agency or not. So I love that as far as looking at it as the skill set of a project manager using a pure project management system, not just collaboration.
Yeah, and I think that's true of all technology. I mean, there is no technology that's going to be the magic solution to your needs. It's how you use it. It's the information that's put in it. It's how it's used. It's, it's the thinking behind, the implementation. So, HubSpot's a great example. It does a lot of things, and we have companies coming to us who are struggling with it. They're using it, but they don't have a good strategy. They don't have a good way to be able to leverage it and, pull the right levers and make it work, better. So right. I think that goes for any tech tool.
Yeah, you're still going to have to do the work, no matter how amazing this tool is. You can give somebody a race car.
How's a smart way to set it up? Like, how's a smart way to use it? And that there is no computer that's going to take that away from people, and that's where people are going to become valuable. Is we can think in a complex way, So,
and I think that's a challenge.
Makes sense, but leave the thinking to test.
Right. And I think that's the challenge of running an agency, compared to running other types of businesses. Whereas, why does QuickBooks create industry specific, instances? It's because if I want to start a construction company or a dentist's office or something else, I can get all these tools, tips, tricks out of the box. Whereas, in some industries, many of our clients, as well as our own professional services firm, we've got to figure it out on our own. There is nobody going to come in and train us from A to Z, from getting the work to doing the work to billing the work in one sweet system. We just really have to figure it out for ourselves, and hopefully rely on each other on how to learn best practices.
Right, the war against the bunch of lazy franchisees. Yeah.
That's why we need companies that can stitch it all together for us.
Amen. Okay, so can you two explain your roles? Nikole, it appears that you're responsible for the sales side, being the sales genius side of things, but also have a lot of operational input. Can you guys give us some distinctions?
Yeah, we can explain it in the form of EOS if you want, Nikole.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Yeah, it's actually great timing with this because we've gotten a lot more clarity based on engaging with EOS and really creating a better, what we call accountability chart versus org chart. So we've got a lot of clarity in terms of what our roles are. So if you'd like to start, Mike.
Yeah, as a matter of fact, that we were just checking Slack just before this call, and one of the folks that we call the Mojo Makers, one of the Mojo Makers posted in a Slack channel. It's only been 48 hours since we kind of rolled this out from our rally last week, and we're already seeing tremendous clarity in our roles and how we communicate with each other. So that it's nice to hear when I feel like we got the right pieces in place now. Now it might change in 6 months, but we're all open to that. But to answer your question, aligned to the Entrepreneur Operating System, or traction, if you will, we follow the accountability chart. My seat is the visionary seat, and I have obsessions around that visionary seat, which is to create opportunities, remove obstacles, build strategic partnerships, and continuously come up with big ideas. So this new system has allowed me to share my ideas, not kind of hold my ideas back for the sake of holding, overwhelming people or whatnot. I now have an avenue for things like that. So each role is tied to obsessions. I'm super passionate about my obsessions and how we roll those out, and hopefully everybody else is as well.
Yeah. So my primary role, I've got a few too many roles at this point. There's a plan for that, but my primary role is what's called an integrator. And so the integrator and the visionary work very closely together. Many people will kind of confuse that as kind of a head of operations, but I am not head of operations. We actually have someone who is head of the operations function. So as an integrator, and I like to tell people that this allows me not to actually have to do any work. Pause, insert laugh. Okay. So my role.
I think John is our integrator.
My role genuinely.
Every day I try.
My role genuinely is to make sure cross-functionally across our people function, our finance function, our operations function, and our revenue function, that everything is working really well together. So as you can imagine, there's a lot to that. So it's not doing the work, but helping to follow a process to identify where there are gaps, where there might be issues, where there's lack of communication, and help to get people on the right path to solve and fix those things. And so, that's kind of my role, is to look across the organization and help, as Mike is, his visionary, he's helping to push us forward, my goal is to help to keep everything that we have, really well intact and working as we're moving forward. So that's my primary role. I also do head up the finance function, and then take some ancillary, kind of boxes for now. But
okay, that is a lot of hats. Yeah. So it sounds like you break it up between, and I've heard it explained this way, like the how person and then the why person, right? The why is the visionary, and the how person is like, this is how we're going to get all this stuff done. So you're essentially making sure everything that he's visualizing and dreaming up is getting accomplished.
I think that's a very good point of view, where it comes to that. Yes.
And what I like with the functions Nikole mentioned, we have to make everything mojo-y, as we say. So when the traditional functions in EOS on a traditional accountability chart is sales and marketing, one box, finance, operations, and there's a fourth, I think there's three, right? So what we've done is started with finance, then we went to people, which has its own function, people, because culture is really important to us, revenue, and under revenues, both sales and marketing, and then ops, and then operations is all the delivery. So if you line that up, the mojo way is, we call them effing pros. So basically you have finance, people, revenue, and operations.
God.
So now what started out as kind of a joke, now I'm starting to see, we're an effing pro, or hey, you're an effing pro. So it's kind of cool to see it operationalized at that fun level.
Yeah.
So I say, effing right.
So she's the effing integrator, I think. So.
Are you effing kidding me?
That's right.
All right. So you've acquired 4 agencies since starting Mojo, right? That accurate? 4?
3.
3. Okay. So what do you look for when acquiring agencies? Is it based on opportunity you see? Like, for instance, you see a distressed asset or like an undervalued asset? Or is it more of an offering play where you want to acquire, hire, or purchase a book of business or new territory or industry? Can you give me some insight on that?
Yeah, I think it's to sum both of those options up would be definitely for increasing value of a current company, if you will, not just through the acquisition, but through them, but through us as well. So mutually increasing value. The second one, to your point, is through getting a book of business or revenue, of course, but then getting talent. You know, when I speak, I ask CEOs, you know, what excites you more, a great client or a great talent? And they immediately knee-jerk reaction say great client, but then when they start to think about it, they almost, I feel, not said really out loud, but they value talent more. Because that's who's taking care of our clients, you know, and I think that's harder to actually acquire is great talent. So what I'm really excited about in our new accountability chart and resetting our strategy or vision, if you will, for the next 3 years, is that we've really identified some really exciting gaps that we want to fill in our accountability chart that may have made that one person might be sitting in two boxes. So as we can continue to grow, I'm certainly excited on the first option to grow revenue and increasing value, but I'm also really excited to add more people, because then it allows people to sit in one box, not two or three. And then if that happens, they have more focus, they have one set of obsessions, not three, and then you get deeper, and then all of a sudden just really magic starts to happen. So as a result of this last kind of rollout plan, we've identified some areas that we would probably be a lot more strategic as we're looking for another deal moving forward, because we want to fill those boxes with really just insanely talented people.
Yeah, and John, you had mentioned distressed companies. I will tell you that's actually not very appealing to Mike and I. We're not looking for a good deal or a company that's kind of on its way down. You know, we actually are more interested in companies that are great, and it's just how can we be better together, or that the company is great, the owner just has other interests or has a, you know, very you know, not trying to run away from the business, but just has other interests that, you know, he or she wants to explore. So those kind of things are really appealing to us, not distressed businesses.
Well, and appealing to them is they start to get to fatigue. You know, I mean, this happens in almost every professional service firm that struggles to scale, is that it's generally the founder who's the expert. They love doing what they do, whether it's programming or marketing or sales or whatever. Then all of a sudden they kind of over time hire 2, 3, 4, 5 people, and now they're responsible for running an agency or running a business and getting farther away from what they truly are passionate to do every single day. So our objective when we're talking to an owner that's not in distress, but in personal distress, where they aren't just living their best life every day, they know they can enrich their life in a better way, but they just kind of don't see a way out of that without losing control or losing their investment or losing whatever it is, their ego. I mean, there's so many things rolled up into it beyond just value of an asset. We hope to give them an opportunity to say, hey, what excites you every day? Can we make you the quarterback of your destiny and build a team around you? And would that excite you? And that's usually the first conversation. And I'm talking to at least 2 to 3 agencies a month. And that's what we talk about. And it's like, oh, what do you do again? You know, it's almost like the asset is the secondary part of the conversation, because our purpose as an agency, and I'm proud to say, if you ask anybody here at Mojo, they would just knee-jerk reaction tell you this, is our passion, our purpose is to enrich lives. And we've got just countless stories of how we've been able to do that. And our mission to deliver on that purpose is to help you grow smarter. So we feel like if we start there with a new employee or a new client or potential acquisition, then that's kind of the start of the chemistry that could lead to some really cool things after that. The one of the 3 that we made was a miserable failure. Honestly, they're not all successful. But the one I'm referring to was a really bad failure. And that was because it really kind of started with not having that passion out of the gate, but not really seeing the long term how somebody could fit in a much larger company, which was a struggle.
I'm happy to say that was our first one. So we did actually learn a lot from that experience, for sure. And you know, John, we up until this point, honestly, we haven't been very strategic in who we're going after, because they've 100% the agency owners have come to us. So any of the deals that we have done, they've come to us. Now we're thinking more strategically about what is it that we would want to look for. So that's kind of where we are.
So no, I appreciate you bringing that up, Nikole, because where in your climb, right, of your agency was the impetus like, hey, we want to go ahead and acquire another agency? Was it like, hey, we need to hit growth goals, or did you say, or was there like, hey, this looks like a good deal? You know what I mean?
Yeah. So the opportunities. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Mike.
No, go ahead, Nikole.
I was going to say the opportunities presented themselves to us. So it was more a situation of, does this make sense, and is this going to help us to get to where we need to go? And is this, just going to be a culture fit? And is it going to help us, meet our goals? So it was more of that evaluation, that we kind of went through and went from there.
Okay. And Mike, you mentioned dealing with, the owner's egos. So to me, in my experience, I've talked to a lot of business owners. To me, their thought of what their business is worth is usually nowhere close to what the reality is, because they've never gone through a process of evaluating their company. Like, how do you broach that topic, and do you have any advice for people that are looking to acquire of how to ease into that?
Into the evaluation process?
The talking to a business owner and saying like, all right, this is what your business really is worth.
This is what you think it's worth. This is actually probably more aligned to what it is.
They're usually very separated, and you have to kind of ease them into where it should be.
Yeah, it's kind of like in the traditional sales process, when you're talking to an uneducated prospect, you're giving a lot of value away for free, because you have to educate on an unknown need. They're a good fit for your agency. You can help them out, but if they don't know what they need or the problems they possess, it's really difficult to, it requires a lot of education and a lot of time and a lot of consulting and whatnot. And whereas if you find a prospect that they know their business problems, they know the pains they're experiencing as a result of their problems, it goes super smoothly, right? Because you can solve those problems with the services of your agency. It's funny, the same thing applies in the M&A process. The one that didn't go well just didn't understand the process. They were making money, and they thought that was the definition of success. I'm making so much money, but it was so much of that that went into those profits was at risk of one thing happening, and a lot of things could bad happen, client concentration, or not recurring revenue, or unstable client base, or unstable industry. And on the flip side of that, some of the agency owners I'm talking to, one is very sophisticated. He understands very well what he has, how he's been through the process before. And that to me is much more appealing. And I'd almost rather pay a value or a little bit more, knowing that this partnership is starting off with one mind, with a meeting of the mind, and not always having to feel like one got at a disadvantage somewhere in the process, if that makes any sense.
Yeah. Sure. And we have had a few agency owners who, they're pretty convinced that their business is worth X, and that's obviously it's not a fit at this time. So
you're like, yeah, you're out of your mind. On to the next one.
Yeah, right. Exactly. Okay.
And honestly, what I'm finding, though, it's interesting. What I'm finding is it's not really the value. It's the value they're placing on their business, of course, but beyond that, it is the value. Quite frankly, the skill set they think they're going to bring to a much larger agency, because sometimes their skill set doesn't scale to 30 people. It's great at 3, but it may not scale at 30, and we don't see ourselves at 30. We aspire to be 50, and I need people thinking 50 to 75, not where we are today. And that skill set just might not transfer over to a $10 million agency where it sits really well at a $1 million agency. So even if you pay fair value and that agency person is going to come with you, it's going to become a people problem. And one thing that I learned is that you go into the deal all about the numbers, but after the deal, it's all about the people. So we go into the deal about the people and we come out of the deal about the people. And we feel like the numbers just kind of take care of themselves, because if the numbers aren't where you anticipate them to be post acquisition, then it's somebody's fault, right? You're going to go after the person. So we'd rather go into it looking at the person and how they fit and how they scale and how they think, because then at that point, should the numbers be right, and they have to be, of course, but that's almost like a secondary consideration.
Yeah, I think it tees up the next question, because I've heard horror stories about companies having issues with teams, playing nice together, or one culture taking over, another culture, and that could be for better or for worse. What types of, clashes, if any, you've had to deal with, or stories you'd like to share on that?
Yeah, we saw that happen with an acquisition that we did about 14 months ago, and it wasn't intentional. It was this city was calling themselves a team, and the Dallas was saying the Dallas team, and it was just kind of like the start of something that could potentially be, create conflict in the future. So what was kind of cool, what we did in our Mojo rally last year, in 2019, we have our Mojo rallies in January to start the year off. The rally theme and for the rest of the year was #OneTeam. So for the rest of the year, when anybody said Dallas team, it's like, no, it's not the team, it's the Mojo team. You're talking about the Dallas office. And it was kind of interesting, just those little subtleties, how it, I think, prevented and many other things that we rolled out as a result of that. But the one team was kind of the tip of the spear to be on the same page and use same nomenclature, to where then nothing really got spun out of control, in the sense of, hey, and it even transcended, which was kind of cool, into it was the inbound team and the web team. People started to say, we're not teams, we're one team. It's the inbound function and the web function, for example. So it was kind of cool the way that worked out like that. So it prevented, I think, creating a subculture that could not be necessarily anything wrong up front, but could grow into something pretty bad later.
Yeah, I do think that there is great possibilities for having issues with culture through acquisitions, and I've seen it with other companies too. We are so careful about that prior to going into it, and so there are things that we'll put in place to make sure that we talk to all the team members or really understand who they are.
Okay.
And Mojo has a really distinct culture. And it's based on like fundamental things, our core values, things that we strongly believe. So our culture is like, you're either going to love it or you're not. I mean, you're either going to be attracted to it or repelled. And so making sure that we truly understand the people behind the company that is going to be coming aboard, and also giving our team members the opportunity to understand, who the company is, and the team members for the company that we might acquire, things like that. Like, we're very open about the communication, and really want to make sure on all sides that it's a good fit. And even as good as a process I think that we've done, there's still been issues that we've had to deal with along the way, but our culture is so fundamentally strong that we've been able to work through those things. And at the end of the day, if there is a person that doesn't end up fitting in the culture, that's not going to work long
Right.
term.
And that makes me think of two things. The one thing is that we actually had a really great opportunity. I think it was 2 years ago now, maybe a year and a half. And this person, let me just say, with their number two, flew into Dallas. We had a great 2-day conversation, talking about the past, the present, the future, getting to understand him and their organization. And the very last thing that we did was say, okay, this is not, because we're under one team, this isn't the Mike show, this isn't Nikole's way, this is the Mojo way. And at the very end, what we did is we said, Nikole and I, we're going to step out. We're going to bring in at random, it was pre-planned, but at random, I think it was 3, 4, 5 Mojo makers, and put them in front of you, and you guys just talk for the next 2 hours. And that happened. I felt it was going in a really good direction. I got really kind of emotionally tied to it because of the skill sets we were going to potentially bring on. And we circled around the next day and huddled, and it was not necessarily unanimous, but there were some key Mojo makers that said, I don't think this is a good fit for these reasons. And it was a tough decision, but I picked up the phone and made a phone call and said, hey, I just don't think this is going to work out. And, you know, I explained why and hopefully left with value on both sides. And we went back to the team and said, hey, just like you would in a hire, perhaps. I went back to the team and said, we said no, and we really value your opinion. We see why you would say that. I think we perhaps were blinded by certain things and didn't see it from that perspective. And the value that built internally to take the culture to the next level was pretty special. And the second thing that I remember what Nikole said is, as we're getting, not great, but we're getting better at this. In the last one that we did in July of last year, I think there were 6 or 7 team members all in the room meeting Nikole and I for the first time as a group. We brought in Ashton, who's our director of culture, who's really, I think, our secret weapon. And what Ashton prepared for is the top 10 things you're probably thinking right now. And Ashton put this presentation deck up in the conference room at their location. And before we took questions, we said, we want to get in front of this, and we want to let you know that these are the important things that we know you're thinking. And we want to just know that we're aware of these and we've experienced these before. And it was unbelievable. Ashton started with number 10, number 9, number 8. And and they were just, you could just see them. And I think body language is so important. You could just see them just relax. And by the time she got to the number one thing you're probably most, concerned about, it just disarmed the entire room. And we just were able to have a really super great conversation.
Was number one, you're not getting fired?
Yeah, right.
Yes, that's exactly right.
Exactly.
Yes.
Everybody has an opportunity for growth, and that was pretty cool. So, we're all humans, and we all have kind of the same basic concerns, and I thought that was pretty disarming, but also pretty enlightening too, to kind of sit in the back of the room and watch this transpire. Was pretty special.
Yeah, I think it's interesting to have a director of culture. And I've said this before on this podcast, where I always looked at, and I still do, look at culture as it's the likability, right? And the ability of, the people to get the work done. And I think it's really important to like the people that you're working with. So when I hear the story, they bring them in and they might say like, yeah, this is, all the work that we can do. And they're saying like, yeah, he can get all the work done, or she can get all the work done. And like, yeah, but I just don't like them, or I don't like the way that they do work. And that's not going to work in a culture, and it'll cause a disruption. So
right.
Yeah, I'd say the thing you have to watch out for that is likability is like, you're going to like people who are like you. Mm-hmm. And so for our definition of what like is, it's not, oh, you're cool, I want to hang out with you on Friday night. It's, it's someone who's really living the core values, and it's just totally aligned, with Mojo in that way. Because we have a lot of very different personalities, that come together, at Mojo, and everybody really respects each other, and, may not have initially like picked them out as friends or whatever, but they just, have come to just appreciate, each other and what they bring. And then from that develops like true relationships, and I've got your back, and, and all of that kind of stuff. So, but yeah, you're totally right. Like if they're not a culture fit, then.
And we tie that back. And what Nikole's referring to is we tie that back to one of our 6 core values, which is ridiculous results. And a lot of people think ridiculous results are the results we produce for our clients, right? But it's not. It's ridiculous results are how we hold each other accountable just to be awesome people every day, and that when you're sitting next to somebody, it's not, do I like you? It's, do I respect the work that you do? Mm-hmm. And does that work deliver on our mission, in our purpose? And with that respect level almost supersedes likability, and through that value of ridiculous results.
Isn't likability and appreciation like they're kind of like, all hanging out in the same room? You know what I mean? Like, I'm not using it.
Yeah, I just wanted to be clear because it's funny. There's so many times like we, when I used to manage the hiring process, like all of a sudden there were a lot of people who were just like me.
Right, yeah. And I don't agree with homogenization, right? Yeah.
Right. And so it's like we need to encourage diversity. So it's not about just trying to get, all people who are just like each other,
right,
complementary and, from skill sets, but all just are super aligned, from a values perspective. Mm-hmm.
I'm glad you asked that question, because like isn't, do I like you? Like is, are you like me? Right. So if you get everybody the same, are you really going to have a diversity of thought process to really deliver on a mission to help people grow smarter, or to a purpose of enriching lives. No, because we're all going to kind of think the same way.
Exactly. Yeah. And I think it's the homogenization, but I meant like people that actually, and, you know, enjoy and respect and appreciate. And I use very simple words, you know, but I appreciate the way that you guys have articulated that. But yeah, I think it's at the end of the day, can all these people work together as one unit? And when it comes to homogenization, I've seen teams where everybody is like, they almost look like they're wearing the same uniforms, the same size, height, color. And yeah, it is literally the vacuum of good ideas and creativity. Nothing is going to go other. It's just, all right, you have an army of minions at that point.
Right.
Well, you hear people say, if I could just, you know, clone myself, you know, that term a lot. And it's like, yeah, you probably wouldn't enjoy working with yourself. So it's probably not the best thing to do.
My office would even be messier.
Right.
All right.
There's maybe one Mike Rose, that's all I know. There's only one Mike Rose. That's all the world needs.
Well, yeah.
All right, and then I mean, speaking to this, so with these agencies, I know your agency, you use the transparent management style or open book, you know, management. Has that helped, you know, solidify the understanding between all of these different cultures and companies?
1,000,000%.
Absolutely, 100%. Yeah. So we have the values are our cultures on 3 pillars, and the bookends to the culture, the values, if you will, is open book management, and then ROW, or results only work environment. But open book finance or open book management has been absolutely key to success. I mean, without question, not just success in the form of building a great culture, living the values, but success in the terms of financial performance as well, which I don't think you should have one without the other.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I appreciate that. And then, so Mojo is a full service digital marketing agency focused on account-based marketing, inbound marketing, website design and development, sales and marketing alignment, sales enablement, and marketing automation / email marketing, right? But if I'm a company over 5 million in revenue, I can obviously hire your firm, you know, for full service engagement. But if I was a smaller company, let's say 2 million in revenue, can I purchase like one-off services? Can you kind of tell me like what that looks like for your agency?
Yeah. So what we do is our sales process is designed to make sure that we're a fit, and not just we're a fit for the client, but the client's a fit for us. And we pretty transparent about that in our first call, our first meeting, because we want to leave, if we determine that we're not a good fit for each other, we want to leave that prospect in a better state than what we found them, whether it's through knowledge, partnerships, you know, introductions, whatever the case might be. So that said, if we decide after that conversation that there's budget, authority, need, and timing, then we move to the next step, which is let's sit down and have a discovery conversation about what are your goals? You know, have you missed goals in the past? Have you hitting goals this year? Where do you want to be in 1, 3, 5 years? You know, what are your plans to accomplish those goals? And where do you see some of the challenges if you can't to prevent you from hitting your goals? And is your timeline realistic? So the budget has to be proportional to the timeline. And so if we find that we kind of have a meeting of the minds and alignment, and we can service a need, we'll customize a solution, whether it's in inbound or ABM or web dev or whatever the case might be. Every company should start with a solid foundation of a really great website. And definition of great is what we talk about, not just looks great, but performs well and converts, and is relevant to your audience, et cetera, et cetera. So sometimes we'll put a smaller client on a journey for years to go through the web transformation, and then layer on inbound, which is a good content engine, if you will, on how to create relevant content, and to start earning the traffic and not paying. And then if it's a good fit, some, not all are, we'll stack, if it's B2B, account based on top of that, and then sales enablement, ultimately on a growth journey to grow revenue. So if all those pieces and parts fit into place for a $2 million company, and we can help grow them to 5 or 10 million, to me, that's almost more exciting to live our purpose to enrich lives than a 10 or $50 million company that's at stagnant growth, or that they don't know they have the need, but they have the budget, and may not treat the culture or treat our people the right way and compromise the culture. So revenue is important. Budget obviously is very important, but being a high potential for greater things later is almost more important to us than anything else.
Yeah, no, it sounds exciting. I mean, I've seen a lot though. You take on a $2 million company and they've been there for a few years and you think there's potential and you're like, okay, I found out they're there for a reason.
Yeah.
I mean, truth is oftentimes that can be a struggle.
Yeah.
Sure.
We find companies that are, that are under 5 million in particular, have different challenges that sometimes are just, too much strain and isn't a great fit for us to work with them. And so we'd love to, but it doesn't always work as well as some who just are more established and have grown to that level because they have a product that's been proven, right? They've got good clients, they've got systems, they've got things in place, and they just need help from understanding how to leverage, better marketing practices, more modern marketing practices and sales practices to then scale that, right?
Yeah. We had a client years ago that they sound like amazing. Like they had everything was in place and they had this, it was in the health space and they had this specific method to get health results that no one on the team could understand. They're like, oh, this is kind of like magic. And then we found out that they were injecting people with like speed or something that was like almost like literally like if you inject somebody with crystal methamphetamine, yeah, they're going to lose weight and they're not going to eat. It was like along. But granted, it wasn't crystal meth. I want to be clear, but it was something that was highly toxic. And we were like, why? But they never told us this. There's nothing that we could have done. The team finds out about this because one of their doctors, who was actually a doctor. I can't believe some of these people can keep licenses. And we found out about this. It was like, wow. So instantly it was like, all right, there's nothing that we can do here to tell that part of the story. And then it was like, all right. And also there's nothing here we want to do to tell that story because that's also not a fit at this point.
Exactly.
We found out they plateaued, and that's why I would say for a reason. Like, okay, you can't tell people you're giving them speed, or meth for that matter. Okay. So in all these different areas, I think it's fantastic. And I believe you bundle these up and you have this very integrated plan. But are these like sectioned off where like, all right, and I'm sure you have this based on some of your reporting, like what percentage of revenue is like website design and development versus ABM versus, or just marketing engagement? Can you give me any insights on that?
Yeah, I wasn't sure if you want me to take it. So are they separate products? Are they integrated? The answer is typically, it depends. More often than not, we've got our services integrated, right? Because we have something that we are trying to help our client accomplish. And usually that is a mix of multiple different things, and typically not just one thing. Now there are, some clients who they just need, help with creating a website. So that would be, a specific project. But from a standpoint of our revenue, I would say about, I don't have the exact numbers in front of me, but over 75% of our business is, working with companies on an ongoing basis and leveraging skill sets within web, within marketing, whether that's inbound and ABM, as well as, on the sales side as well. So that's the majority of the clients we work with that we kind of work across.
So like 75% is recurring revenue based on like engagements?
Correct. Based on total revenue. Yes.
Right on.
Yeah.
That's fantastic.
And what I like the way Nikole said it is, and that is what I like about that is back in the day, probably 5+ years ago, we would go to market with a client or onboard that client with a scope of work. And that scope of work, we had to live within the 4 corners of that agreement. And maybe 2, 3, 4, 5 months, a year later, that scope of work was outdated. And then you'd have to go back and renegotiate or refigure what you're going to do. It made our life a lot easier. I mean, it was great to deliver on a Chinese menu of things every single month. But where we are today is much more agile. We might have to, put a lot more paid in one month, or we might have to pull back on something else. We might have to double down on an account-based marketing strategy and pull back on content. So what I like what we do today is it's an omni-channel approach. I wouldn't say on a monthly basis, but is super agile. So we can keep our eye on the results, what we ultimately need to accomplish for that client. And I think it puts more strain on the agency because we have to be much more nimble and agile, but it's ultimately what's best for the client, and they ultimately get better results as a result. And we had 2 clients just this week, you know, increase their engagement with us because they wanted to do more faster. The other client actually wanted to increase their engagement, but we told them, no, we can do it with what you have. And that's kind of cool to be able to say that we have the right mix, and to be able to be true consultants and not just, you know, be in it for, you know, one side or the other. We're truly in it to say, you know, don't get me wrong, we'll take more retainer any day of the week, but it's just not good now. Let's revisit this later.
Yeah, and probably not a good fit client for us is someone who just needs some tactical help. You know, we have a lot of expertise and specialties in the area, and we get requests all the time. Can you just help me to do X or do X? And if it's not tied to, you know, any kind of greater purpose than that, it's just not a good long-term fit for us. So.
Okay. And with the model that you have where it's like, hey, we can take care of all the things, you know, within this bucket, which I love. And we've done that as well. But for us, we've been the like abused spouse sometimes in the relationship by not managing it properly, you know? So how do you make sure that you're setting the scope properly and showing, you know, the value of the work that you're doing? What does that look like?
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's through data. So first of all, with all of our customers, we are going to be rallying around a North Star metric. And so that is like, okay, what is that metric that we all agree at this point in time? And chances are that metric is going to change over time, you know, as the program evolves. But you can't just go right to revenue, say, for example, if there's lots of other problems downstream. So it's like, what is the early indicators, you know, of success? So what is that? So we rally around and we're really focused on, okay, how are we tracking to those? So obviously measurement is huge. And then from, you know, you had said being a kind of an abused spouse, I think that we've gotten actually pretty good with this. And our client profitability is showing this. There are very few clients that are unprofitable for us at this time. And that's because of some kind of baseline, you know, boundaries that we've put in place. So the client understands, you know, what our upcoming plans are. We obviously are showing them data and the reasons why we're suggesting what we're suggesting. But if there is a lot of delay on the client part, then we're not moving. You know, that work just keeps kind of rolling, and you know, the clients are not getting the value from us. You know, obviously, but our reasoning behind that is, you know, if we're not doing work, if we're not executing on these campaigns, then you're not going to see the results. We're not going to see the results they want. You'll end up firing us anyway because the results aren't there. So we do this as a way to encourage our clients to stay very collaborative and very engaged in the process, so that we can keep work going forward. And you know, over time too, we've gone round and around to make sure that we are kind of pricing things profitably. So we use a point system, and so it's like, you know, making sure that, you know, that's, you know, accurate as well. It's taken a while to figure out.
We don't see a lot of abuse now. If we do, we don't mind having those hard conversations, and, you know, letting clients go sometimes. I mean, it's a healthy thing to do. But what we see more than anything is in the sales process, talking to a prospect that has been in a bad relationship in the past, right? So they're much more, you know, standoff. They're not as trusting. They'll still make emotional decisions, but they'll back it up. You have to back it up with facts. But trying to assure somebody that, hey, not all agencies are like your previous relationship. We truly want to be your last agency. And this is what we've done in our experiences that we've had in the past and the process that we put in place to make sure this is a good experience. Now, it's not to say we're not going to have problems, but because of open book management, we are a very transparent company. We share all the numbers with everybody internally, and they play a role in financial literacy. And that is kind of like, we live our values. We have things in place such as OBM and ROW to demonstrate or explain that, you know, we do live these things, live this way. and to assure them that it's not always going to be like that. And so we really kind of absorb more probably bad relationships than what we're in.
Okay. Yeah. And I think that's a good way to go about it. And what we do is we're very transparent with our clients, essentially. And we have a similar model, like, all right, this is the goal and we're going to do all these things to get it done. And to me, I know you said the words consultant, and what I look at is it's kind of like that outsourced marketing department, because I've been in an internal marketing department that is just where it's like, all right, hey, we have this thing that has to get done, align the resources necessary and make sure that it happens. And that's what we do to the best of our ability and trying to report on that. And then, of course, there's like our conversations. But you mentioned doing the point system, which I don't agree with, because I think I've sat down with clients and they've done the algebra right in front of me. And they're like, yeah, dude, I'm not stupid. So just give me whatever the time is. How do you guys feel about the point system? Do clients just kind of go with it? Like, yeah, it's 2.5 points for a blog post. Can you say anything about that?
I mean, Mike is in the sales process, so he can speak from that side. But I should tell you that the clients love it. They absolutely love it. They totally see the value. And the clients that we work with, they're not calculating the hours. Okay. They're not bothering with that. In fact, to be honest with you, the majority of our clients who start working with us after a while, they don't even really look to see what the point value is of this specific tactic, because they the needle moving. They trust our judgment. They know that, okay, these are the next highest priorities. And we've actually sent surveys out to our CSMs to say, how can we improve this process? What kind of feedback do you get from clients? And many of our client success managers are like, we have never once gotten, pushback. People completely understand it. They love it. And so we've not gotten any kind of pushback. I don't know from a sales process if, what people say, Mike.
No, I think that's one of our I think uniques that actually differentiates us from other agencies, is because we explain that the points-based system is to not penalize you. As a matter of fact, it's not to penalize us either. If we get something done, if it takes us longer to do something, you shouldn't have to pay for that. But however, if we're efficient and we get something done sooner than what we anticipated, we shouldn't have to take the brunt of that either. So it's truly a win-win. Plus, fundamentally, it helps you better plan every single month, because you can plan your month out from a points-based system and it keeps you within budget. But if those new ideas come up in the middle of the month, which inevitably do, they either go to the backlog or something comes out of the current month. And that helps kind of keep the focus on the end goal, which is the results, and not going off on these tangents of a press release that's not tied to a result, or a web page that's not going to be tied to something that we're trying to measure that's relevant.
Okay. No, I appreciate it. I think that's a good answer. Yeah. And ours, it seems like once we get over the conversation in the hours, then it does go away. But if somebody new comes into the mix, there's this kind of like review, and that's where we, start having that conversation. All right. So your agency is a HubSpot Diamond Partner, which is not easy to get by any stretch. Can you tell me how that fits into the overall success of Mojo Media Labs today?
Sure. So suddenly the content here just downgraded because Nikole left, but
well, if this doesn't go well, I'll make a bet with you. If this doesn't go well, we'll go ahead and do a part 2. How's that?
I'm going to do my absolute best to try to bring it home here. So HubSpot partner system, essentially, transformational, honestly. I just had this conversation with somebody last week. So last week, as I mentioned, we had our Mojo Rally. What Mojo Rally is basically we bring everybody in from all the offices and locations, and we brought in a keynote speaker and 2 reps from HubSpot. It was just really, it's my favorite week of the year. This is the 3rd one that we've done, and we almost have a mini conference here in our office. We have breakout sessions, and it's such a special thing. I told the story to everybody that it was probably 2010, 2011. Trying to make the decision as to what's our next quantum leap as an agency, and I remember narrowing down a particular decision to Salesforce or HubSpot at the time, and Dreamforce at the time, I can't remember, was around 100,000 people a year. Inbound, which is HubSpot's annual conference, was probably around 2,500, you know, clearly much smaller in its infancy, you know, as they started in 2007. But ultimately decided to go with partner with HubSpot. The other option was to partner with both, right, and see how it went. But after, you know, some conversations, we decided, hey, HubSpot's our partner. They had an amazing culture. They are my first channel account manager in 2012 is now the global VP of channel account management at HubSpot, which is a testament to kind of growing with them into a 4,000 plus, you know, employee company globally, and a significant portion of the market share, marketing automation, not to mention now competing with HubSpot in a great CRM that I think is quite frankly a little better, or a better fit for certain, you know, companies. So it's been really special to kind of, I don't want to say grow together, but grow with HubSpot. And I think they have a gold standard partner program, and we're partnered with a lot of other tech now, as I mentioned, additional core and edge tech. Their partner programs are just not as they're in its infancy, and they're trying to learn from us and whatnot as what a good relationship or partnership is all about. So we're really grateful for having partnered with HubSpot as they continue to grow and add additional services to their platform. And it's been one of our probably best decisions we ever made. Do I think sometimes what would have happened if we would have exclusively partnered with, say, Salesforce? Yeah, maybe, but we've got a really great thing going. We have a great relationship, and that to me is almost more important than anything else, that we have as much support on the HubSpot side as we do. And that's just, it's a pretty special thing.
Literally stole my follow-up question. Like took it right out, right there. To ask you about Salesforce. And do you think that your culture would have been different today? And I was, as you were saying that, I'm like, come on, that's my question.
Yeah, I never thought about it from that perspective before. That's a good question. I don't know what a different tech would have done to our culture, if to maybe put it that way. I don't want to just single out Salesforce, but because we do a lot of Salesforce, you know, setups and integrations and migrations and things like that. That I think now, corporate. Yeah, you know, I mean, it's a big company, you know, and they don't necessarily have a culture code. I mean, you can Google HubSpot culture code and look at that deck. I mean, it's special, and to today still have, you know, direct access to the two founders, you know, Dharmesh Shah and Brian Halligan. It's pretty cool. You know, partner day last year for Diamond Partners, we were in Brian Halligan's house in Boston. I mean, it's a pretty special thing.
How gnarly was that house?
Oh, it was pretty sweet. Yeah, it was pretty
you help
sweet.
him pay for it. Yeah.
He's got a nice place. But it was that, but it was also kind of the other partners in the room. You know, there's a significant portion of those partners we've all kind of grown up together, and I consider them really good friends. And there's a lot of quote unquote competitors, if you will, or HubSpot partners that I can call, text, you know, whatever it takes, you know, to get information or to share, or, you know, to get a question answered or overcome a challenge. So beyond the partner program between agency and HubSpot, the partners themselves is a pretty special thing. And HubSpot pours a lot of money in their partner program. They don't, on their particular partner events, they're not money makers for them, you know, like other events. But I think that investment, I know from my perspective, has just paid off tremendously. That said, as we were talking earlier about acquisitions, that's where I think our next hopeful acquisition will be with a smaller Salesforce type agency, where we can accelerate that learning curve. And as we're moving into the account-based marketing space, we're just seeing more Salesforce because the clients are much larger. And in all honesty, there's much better native integrations to Salesforce from other edge tech than there is HubSpot. I think it's going to get there, but our clients want to grow faster now with the tech that they have. So being able to bring on those skill sets into our current makeup is the right time. Whereas I don't think it was 5, 6, 7 years ago.
I think, you know, Salesforce is like the QuickBooks and HubSpot's like the FreshBooks, you know, perhaps. You know, Salesforce is everywhere with every industry that's just not I don't find it sexy to work with. Like it feels very procedural. when I
Yeah.
have to work with Salesforce. So it's just not.
Well, to
that
be clear,
fun.
their product is Pardot though that they're using, right?
Yeah, and that's it's technically speaking. So with Pardot Salesforce, you're still working with different databases. What's nice about HubSpot is you're working with the same database, right? So you don't have to create different fields for different uh, campaigns, if you will. So it's a smoother running system. It's easier for user adoption and the usability side on the client. It's easier to teach, but you know, where we are finding ourselves more and more, especially in the account-based marketing space, is at the upper mid-market to enterprise level. And if we find a fantastic fit client that we can truly help roll out an account-based marketing pilot and then ultimately account-based marketing programmatic or one-to-many program, they're going to be on more sophisticated tech. And that generally means Salesforce. So we're good at it. We don't have all the skill sets that I ultimately want to have in house, but we will hopefully one day as we continue to grow. So it'll become like HubSpot was more about the tech and the culture. Salesforce is going to be more about the client and the technology to get them to the next level.
Okay, all right. And then according to your LinkedIn, you worked for Alcon as just a scientist. Right. It seems like a basic description. So are you just covering a gap in your resume, like being in the CIA or something? Like what is that?
I think I have the shortest job description or resume ever. No, it was kind of I really.
I think the CIA just cut his feed.
Yeah, dude. What
NSA
happened?
was like, nope, cut it.
I know. Man. I was like, is that my internet? Mike, you there? Can you hear us? Wow. Either that or Nikole. She's like, nope, that is not an interview happening without me.
Yeah.
Okay. Wow. Two firsts on this episode. All right.
Well, let's give him a minute. If not, we can just do the wrap up. Like I definitely don't want to do a part 2 because the questions.
All right. We got you back.
The CIA cut your feed?
Sorry, guys. I don't know what happened. It's episode 7. We're working through the kinks. So I probably stopped that I was in, I probably last said I was in drug delivery and I was not delivering crystal meth. And then you just went away. So I'm glad we were able to reconnect and clarify some things. So I don't know where I was, but scientists, Alcon Laboratories, my background's biochemistry, chemistry, and I was in an area of research called drug delivery. And again, that is not crystal meth like John was referring to earlier. Drug delivery for Alcon, which is an ophthalmic pharmaceutical company, was delivering drugs across the anterior portion of the eye. So it was for anti-glaucoma, anti-inflammatory. I love that. I love research. I love science, you know. I just didn't see myself working in a lab for the next 20 or 30 years. Or a lot of the introverted kind of folks that I was working with. Love scientists, love those kind of people, but I was a little bit more extroverted and decided to start my business on August 1st of 97.
Got it.
Back in the day.
And did science play a part in what you do then and do now insofar as like the way that you look at data and business?
Yeah, so kind of interesting. So when we named Mojo Media Labs a long time ago now, media is the art, it's the creative in marketing, it's the right brain, whereas labs is kind of a little nod to the science days of the laboratory, but it's more of the left brain, the analytics, the analytical thinking, the logical side. So we say when you put art and science together, you create Mojo. So that's kind of the tip to the past, if you will. But as it turns out, you know, from 97, starting Mojo, you know, out of our first company in 07, always wanting to take it digital, you know, and the way technology has evolved just in the past 4, 5, 6 years, and we're bringing calculators into, you know, revenue meetings, marketing meetings more than art. Then that's a pretty special thing. So I think we were always kind of just a little bit ahead of the type of thinking we needed today.
Right on. And we're getting here toward the end. So where do you think agencies or even companies are missing out when it comes to marketing today?
Agencies or
Let's start with agencies. Let's stick with agencies.
missing out on marketing?
Yeah, what are they missing out on? It doesn't even have to be, with marketing. I mean, I'm just giving kind of a prompt there.
Well, I would say, to take marketing, I would say doing their own marketing.
Okay.
That's probably where the biggest missed opportunity is. Completely understand the challenge with that. Do we do client work? Do we do our own work? But, we do believe in the oxygen mask theory that you've got to take care of yourself. You got to build your own pipeline. You got to build your own funnel. And if you have the skill sets internally to do it, dedicate time to building your own marketing program. And we said early on that, we want to be the cobblers with the best shoes on the block. I said that last year at Rally, now that I think about it, and I think half the room didn't even know what a cobbler was, so I had to explain. You guys are old guys like me, so it's like a cobbler is, okay, let me use another phrase here.
Yeah.
So didn't type my audience very well.
Yeah.
But yeah, we wanted to have great shoes, and we've always tried to look at it that way. So now we're making more investment and doing more dedicated resources to marketing for our own agency, because we have to practice what we preach, and we have great visitations, great conversions. The majority of our leads come through our website, which I'm proud to say. And it's been a lot of hard work, but I didn't want to be that agency to say, we can do this for you, but we don't do it for ourselves. But I think that'd be the biggest piece of kind of advice perhaps I could give, is to really focus on your own marketing.
I love that. And something to that effect, and I believe Dave and I have had this discussion where I haven't moved on this. I believe agencies shouldn't do their own. They should find another agency to do their marketing and do kind of like almost like a trade-off type of deal, somebody that's equal, so it gets that much attention and the importance that it deserves. Food for thought.
I mean, it's whether you insource it or outsource it, the objective is you're focusing on your own stuff, right?
Agreed.
And you're not sitting with antiquated technology or poor messaging, and you're through brute force selling your way to growth, and I think marketing should play a huge role in that.
Yeah, I think with all aspects, not just marketing. I mean, anytime it's an internal project, there's just such the opportunity to say, no, wait, let's just push that. Let's work on a client problem. That's internal projects and internal improvements. It sometimes feels so challenging to complete because you just can't get that focus. There's always, a dollar that's going to say, hey, can you work on my stuff today? So
sure. Absolutely.
Stuff.
It's a good challenge.
So is there anything I didn't cover that the world should know? Are you peddling or promoting anything that you'd like to share? Literally, the space is yours. You can say whatever you want.
No, I think you did a great job. Perhaps the only thing that we could add to this would be, talking about the Digital Mastermind Conference, I think in September.
I love that, man.
Pulling people into that, I mean, it's
technically September. Yeah.
September. Yes. Thank you. In Dallas, I believe.
Yeah. It is in Dallas.
Hopefully I'm not breaking any secrets here or anything.
No, absolutely. Thank you so much.
But we're on the 50-yard line. We'd love to see a lot of agencies in Dallas for Digital Mastermind. And it's a super special group. We just laid out our conference schedule last week and assigned people to going to different conferences for the rest of the year. And, Digital Mastermind is just one of those special ones that Nikole and I really, really enjoy. We've created some amazing relationships, you guys included. So if you're an agency, you want to grow, you want to learn from like-minded agencies, I think that's a great thing to consider.
Oh, I love you, man. That's Excellent. The best pedal anybody has given on the climb to date. That is perfect.
Now, if you want to go check out my book on Amazon, you can do that too. But aside from that, it's the Digital Mastermind Conference.
Your book's going in the show notes. It's also called ROE, right? ROE?
Result. Yes, it's return on energy. ROE powers return on investment.
Boom. Signed copies, are those available too for double the price?
It, man. I'll send it to you at no cost.
All right. Thank you so much, Mike. And how can people get a hold of you?
They can find us at mojomedialabs.com. Okay. I think we're pretty transparent with the team members and services we offer and case studies, success stories. We have a great blog. I mean, we try to educate as much as we can because we just love what we do. So mojomedialabs.com.
All right, perfect. Really appreciate you having on. I'm sorry we went a little bit over. Nikole had to drop off. Just want to, say how much it means to us to have you on. Thank you so much.
This has been a blast. Thanks so much. It's been an honor. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mike.
Have a great weekend.
You too. Bye now. All right, Dave. How do you think that went, buddy?
That was great. I always love talking with Mike and Nikole. They're just tons of, positive energy. I love how they get deep into their culture. You know that it's genuine and authentic. And it's really, it's just really interesting to hear them talk about Mojo.
Yeah, I learned a lot on that, and I love the way that they handle their acquisition model, right? Where they look at the people and the numbers that tend to work out themselves. Granted, there's some importance on there, and I believe that has been a testament to how they've been able to be as successful as they have been. I don't know. It's a bummer that Nikole had to drop off, but that's just part of my inexperience in doing interviews and podcasting, and a little bit poor planning on my end. But
one day we'll pay our guests enough to have penalties that come along with that.
They pay to be on this show,
right?
Actually, they don't. That'd be nice. Maybe that's a new business model. But no, I think there was a ton of value in there, and I guess one of the other takeaways was just how integral HubSpot has been in his growth, and also too how HubSpot has literally, to their brilliance, I might add, been able to put all these inroads into an agency that also then helps the end results. I think that's kind of fantastic.
Yeah, it's an ecosystem, and they've captured an ecosystem and run with it. And if you're a marketing agency, you're going to run into HubSpot. We partner a lot with SharpSpring, and they're trying to build the same ecosystem. And we're a big SharpSpring company, and yeah, even as a developer, I'd love to build a tool that can capture an audience like that. And then if you go back even a generation before the HubSpots and the SharpSpring, NetSuite was the HubSpot of the early 2000s. And maybe a lot of people haven't heard of NetSuite, but it got acquired by Oracle. And it was basically your one-stop shop for everything online. It did your HR, it did your job board, it did, everything for business. Now it does everything. And, there was an older generation of tools that,
like Sage did that too, right?
Right. Yeah. There's a whole set of just one generation ago tools.
Yeah.
But then the HubSpots and the Sharps and the new guys, they're just the same tools with the new. They
became more affordable though, because those were just ridiculously expensive. They were unwieldy. You had to hire a consultant. Even with Salesforce, you still got to get an outside consultant.
Well, the SaaS model came in and made it affordable,
right,
for everyone. And even though technically, like the NetSuites and all those were probably SaaS models, they just didn't market it as SaaS. And
Eloqua, that was another one that was really expensive. I remember my career we first started using. It was just ridiculous. I was like, geez, man, like the price tags on those.
But those older tools came with like your own server install and your own management. And now the SaaS model just kind of, opened it up for everyone. And now we've got all these marketing platforms. The amount of tools that are changing. And that's funny that when Mike was saying early in the discussion how they were just implementing something new. I'm like, every time I talk to you, Mike, you're implementing something new. They are changing constantly. And I feel like that's got to come with some frustration, but they seem to just hit
I think that's part of their culture though. Like that's they're expected to adapt, or that's what they embrace, which, listing the number of services they offer, which granted, we do a lot of the stuff too, but I think it's awesome that they have the distinct buckets, account-based marketing, inbound marketing. There's a distinction between those two, and rightfully so, website design and development, sales and marketing alignment, sales enablement, marketing automation, and email. They have 29 people. So that means we didn't get time to get into this. There's people that have to be cross-trained on some of those, because it's not, or maybe they have it broken up in a different, we have, some of that as well, but all these are things necessary to market today, and that's not going anywhere. There's more things that are getting piled on and piled on and piled on.
And let me just add that, being a member of the Digital Mastermind group, I've had the pleasure of knowing Mike and Nikole for, I think, like 6 years now. And they bring so much value to our meetup. Being a member of DMG, you'll get to pick their brain all the time. So, I mean, they're a tremendous resource for the DMG group. It's great.
Another plug. I love it. Yes. Boom.
That's-
Tickets on sale now. I'll do a promo. I'll get a promo in there for everybody.
Yeah, we got to start plugging it. This is the digital this is the climb.
This is the climb.
Digital mastermind group.
Absolutely. We met on our way up. Looked over. Hey, Dave.
Right.
All right. Is there anything else that we want to say on this?
No, I think another solid episode.
Lucky number
the
7.
Content's great. The interviews are excellent. The questions are good. So let's keep it rolling.
Yeah, keep it rolling. But I'm excited about next week too, where we're gonna have Oprah Winfrey herself. Don't ask me how I landed.
You get
this.
an interview. You get an interview. Everyone gets an interview.
No. Actually, somebody equally as great in my book. Carrie, she's going to be fantastic talking with us also about acquisitions, but in a completely different way. So I'm really excited to have her on board. Carrie starts with an M. I'm not good with last names, Dave. You had to. Here, I'll get her. I'll get her last name now. I barely learned yours.
Hey, tune in.
Okay, Carrie McClanahan. Carrie McClanahan.
Excellent.
The only Carrie that anybody should be concerned with when it comes to marketing agencies.
Excellent.
All right, my friend. It's always a pleasure. And
Alrighty.
I will talk to you soon.
Sweet.
All right. Sayonara.